We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Massive explosions in Beirut as Israel unleashes new air raids. Hezbollah leader's potential successor unreachable. French President Macron calls for ceasefire, halt to arms supply. Netanyahu terms it shameful, says will win war without their support. Big boost to rail infra in India's IT hub of Bengaluru. 2 rail lines from International Airport to Yelahanka suburb to be created. And in cricket, India and Bangladesh to square off in the first men's T20 international of a 3-match series in Gwalior on Sunday. And on to the top story this hour. As Israel vowed retaliation for Iran's attacks, the Israeli forces released a video on Saturday. The Israel Defense Forces video, as the Israeli army claims, shows its forces identifying and sealing Hezbollah tunnels in Lebanon. The IDF claimed to have destroyed 250 meters of terror infrastructure and found equipment they said was to be used in attacks on Israel. With the first anniversary of the October 7th Hamas attack approaching, Israeli forces continue ground incursion into Lebanon in their campaign against the Hezbollah. And huge explosions rocked the Lebanese capital Beirut's southern suburbs overnight, shaking the ground and sending plumes of smoke into the skyline. Residents in Beirut said the bombardment was so intense that car alarms went off and buildings shook as Israeli fighter jets pounded the densely populated outskirts, including the international airport's perimeter. The attack comes in retaliation for Iran's attack. Video footage shows a fireball rising above Lebanon's capital overnight, following another strike on the city, with reports suggesting it may have hit a petrol station. The Israeli army said it was currently striking terror targets belonging to the Hezbollah terrorist organization in the area of Beirut in a statement on its Telegram channel. And a red alert has been issued in Israel as the Iron Dome was triggered there. Explosions were also heard over northern Israel early on Sunday. Several flashes reflected on the buildings below as interceptors were deployed. Israel has begun an intense retaliatory bombing campaign in Lebanon and sent troops across the border in recent weeks after nearly a year of exchanging fire with Hezbollah. Fighting had previously been mostly limited to the Israel-Lebanon border area, taking place in parallel to Israel's year-old conflict in Gaza against Hamas. Israel says it aims to allow the safe return of tens of thousands of citizens to their homes in northern Israel, bombarded by Hezbollah since October 8th last year. The Israeli attacks have eliminated much of Hezbollah's senior military leadership, including Secretary General Nasrallah, in an open-air attack on September 27th. Meanwhile, the Israeli military on Saturday announced changes to its defensive guidelines in several areas, including in some communities north of Tel Aviv near the Gaza Strip and parts of the occupied West Bank. The changes allow gatherings of up to 2,000 people, up from 1,000. The IDF spokesperson also said that Israel will retaliate against Iran for the missile attack launched by Tehran when the time is right.
According to the situation assessment that was held today, it has been decided to update instruction of the home front so that gatherings are allowed of up to 2,000 people from the Carmel area to the south will all be affected. The way in which we respond to this disgraceful attack will be in the manner, at the location and the timing which we decide according to the political leadership's instructions.
And along with easing of some of the defense guidelines, Israel remains on alert. The country has deployed its forces on alert ahead of the anniversary of Hamas' October 7th attack. The alert came with Israel engaged in an intensifying war with the Hezbollah, which Army Chief Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi said would be hit without concession or respite. Ahead of Monday's grim anniversary, military spokesman Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari said at a televised briefing that Israeli forces are prepared with increased forces in anticipation for this day when there could be attacks on the home front. And a day before anniversary of October 7 terror attack on Israel by Hamas, French President Emmanuel Macron has called for a ceasefire as whereabouts of many hostages are still not known and they are in Hamas captivity. Macron was addressing International Organization of the Francophonie. He said that while France supports Israel's security and have special thought of war victims and hostages, to make the ceasefire effective, there must be halt to arms sales to those who are using them in Gaza.
When we call for ceasefire, this is the case for Gaza. This was also the case for Lebanon last week. Well, we try not to call for a ceasefire while continuing to deliver weapons of war. And I think it's just consistency. And so I confirm to you that for my part, I think that at the moment, the ceasefire in Gaza is a priority to allow humanitarian action to be resumed at full capacity and also to allow for a political solution which alone will ensure peace and security for all, with the two-state solution at play. And as for Lebanon, we also call for a ceasefire.
Well, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reacted sharply to Macron's demand for halt to arms supplies, saying that Netanyahu's statement ignored enormity of terror strike that had taken place in Israel last year.
As Israel fights the forces of barbarism led by Iran, all civilized countries should be standing firmly by Israel's side. Yet President Macron and some other Western leaders are now calling for an arms embargo against Israel. Shame on them. Is Iran imposing an arms embargo on Hezbollah, on the Houthis, on Hamas, and on its other proxies? Of course not. The axis of terror stands together. But countries who supposedly oppose this terror axis call for an arms embargo on Israel. What a disgrace. Well, let me tell you this. Israel will win with or without their support.
Well, after Israeli PM Netanyahu dubbed France President Macron's arms embargo call, the French President's office has stressed that France is Israel's steadfast friend, as per the Times of Israel on Sunday. According to the Times of Israel, the LSE stressed that Macron supports Israel's security and demonstrates it. Macron's office stated that France mobilized its military this week during Iran's missile attack, as it did in April. And now some updates on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Ukrainian forces said they have shot down a Russian fighter plane on Saturday, while Russia claimed it has made some gains in Ukraine's east. The Russian bomber was shot down near the city of Kostyantynivka in the Donetsk province, said Ukrainian force. According to local authorities, there were no reported casualties. While teams were on the ground, a strike hit a nearby residential area, resulting in several other houses being damaged. On the other hand, Russia's defense ministry claimed that it had taken control of the village of Zelenydruhe. Separately, the defense ministry said Russia had downed 10 Ukrainian drones overnight over its Belgorod, Voronezh and Kursk regions, which border Ukraine. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Saturday he would attend an international meeting to discuss military support for Ukraine to be held in Germany next week. The summit, scheduled for October 12th, will be the first to take place at the leadership level, bringing together more than 50 of Ukraine's allies, including U.S. President Joe Biden. The gathering is expected to address pressing issues surrounding military aid to Ukraine as it continues its defense against Russia's advancing forces. Zelensky on social media stated that he would present clear, concrete steps towards a just end of the war, adding that Russia could be stopped by the determination of our partners and the strengthening of Ukraine. And now some updates from campaign trail of U.S. presidential polls. Republican U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump made a bold return to the Butler Farm showgrounds in Pennsylvania on Saturday, where he survived an assassination attempt in July. During his rally, Trump called the gunman a vicious monster and declared that he would never quit. Trump lashed out at his political opponents, calling them the enemy within, who had pushed to indict him and who knows, maybe even tried to kill him. Trump's much-hyped return to Butler, Pennsylvania came exactly 1 month before the November 5th presidential election. Earlier, Donald Trump campaigned in North Carolina on Friday for the 4th time in a month as the Republican presidential candidate tries to firm up support in a state.
Exactly 12 weeks ago this evening on this very ground, a cold-blooded assassin aimed to silence me and to silence the greatest movement, MAGA. For 16 harrowing seconds during the gunfire, time stopped as this vicious monster unleashed pure evil from his sniper's perch, not so far away. But by the hand of Providence and the grace of God, that villain did not succeed in his goal.
Well, on the other hand, Vice President Kamala Harris assessed the damage from Hurricane Helene in Charlotte, North Carolina on Saturday. Harris attended a meeting with emergency management officials and talked to members of the armed forces. She also visited a donation center where she helped fill bags with toiletries and spoke to local residents. Her visit comes a day after her Republican rival Donald Trump campaigned in Fayetteville, home to a large military community in North Carolina.
The work that is happening here and that continues really is the best of what we can do to bring federal, state, and local resources together in a way that is coordinated with one purpose and one purpose only, which is bringing relief, support, and help to the people who are most in need and desperate for help and desperate to be seen and heard. So I came here to find out what's going on the ground, to find out what more we can do in terms of federal aid, what we're giving to Mecklenburg County in terms of disaster relief, the work that we are doing, which is $100 million to assist with the rebuilding of Interstate 40.
Well, the new British government's first international investment summit will feature senior executives from companies including Google, Wave and Brookfield Asset Management. The summit, which will commence from 14th of October, aims to provide an opportunity for the government to establish enduring partnerships with businesses to boost investment in the UK and to give investors the certainty and confidence they need to drive growth as an initiative. The UK government has announced to invest $28 billion for carbon capture projects. And time for some other news from the world. Mozambique, a South African nation, will vote for its 5th president on October 9th in the 2024 Mozambican presidential election, along with parliamentary and gubernatorial elections. The country people bid on to employment opportunities, hoping for better future after struggling the fallout of the tuna bond corruption scandal, which triggered the country's worst economic crisis. The Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa, celebrated the annual Richa festival on Saturday, marking the end of the rainy season. Oromo men and women performed traditional dances and chants, continuing an age-old tradition highlighting annual culture and heritage. Mexico City new left-wing mayor Clara Brugada took office on Saturday with a pledge to defend women's rights in the capital, which is home to more than 9 million people. Brugada is a member of President Claudia Sheinbaum's ruling Morena party and was elected in June. At least 5 students from an educational center in Colombia were killed and 23 injured when a bus transporting them crashed on a road west of Bogota. Emergency services quickly arrived at the scene to rescue those trapped in the wreckage and transport the injured to nearby hospitals. The incident has prompted an outpouring of grief from the community, with local officials expressing condolences and calling for enhanced safety measures for school transport. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar speaks about India's efforts to end Ukraine conflict. India's former President Ram Nath Kovind stresses on the benefits of one nation, one election. And India to take on arch rivals Pakistan in the ICC Women's T20 World Cup in Dubai.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Moving on, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar says that Prime Minister Narendra Modi's efforts to end the Ukraine conflict has been widely hailed across the world. Speaking at a conclave by Pratidin Time in New Delhi, the minister said that much of the world supports India's efforts, believing that there is a Prime Minister who has the ability to talk to the both sides.
What I saw in the UN, and after that I went to Washington as well, much of the world supports what we did. I mean, people are very happy today. I mean, they at least say, okay, you have a person like Prime Minister Modi, who, because you can count on your fingertips today, who has the ability to go to both capitals. And that kind of communication, because see, Prime Minister Modi cannot go every time to another capital and meet. So sometimes, it could be NSA Doval, it could be me. I've also spoken to some of the foreign ministers, including of those two countries concerned. So I think it's a good thing that we are doing, and I can tell you one thing, the world is with us.
Well, India's former President Ram Nath Kovind on Saturday attended the 30th Lal Bahadur Shastri Memorial Lecture at the National Museum in Delhi. Speaking at the event, former President highlighted the benefits of one nation, one election. He said that simultaneous elections will have long-term benefits, including better governance, policy stability, and many more. Let's listen in.
Our country would greatly benefit from adopting simultaneous elections in its steady march towards a Viksit Bharat. Simultaneous elections will have long-term benefits such as better governance, policy stability, social cohesiveness, economic growth, and enhanced global competitiveness. It has the potential to be a foundational reform for a more inclusive and prosperous future.
Well, Indian Railways and Information and Broadcasting, Electronics and Information Technology Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw visited the Bengaluru Cantonment Railway Station to inspect development works. Vaishnaw announced the decision to create 2 railway lines from Bengaluru International Airport to Yelahanka.
Very happy with the progress. Today I have also reviewed the progress of the circular rail. Circular rail is going to change the entire transportation facilities of Bengaluru city and the progress is good. DPR is progressing very well, and hopefully by end of December the DPR will be completed. Then we will take the next steps. I also inspected the railway line from Bengaluru station, Bengaluru airport to this place up to Bengaluru Cant.
Well, India's Minister of State for External Affairs and Textiles, Prasar Margarita, visited Grenada, where he received a warm welcome by the Prime Minister of Grenada, Dickon Mitchell, and Governor-General of Grenada. Later, the minister also attended an event with the Indian diaspora in Grenada. Engaging discussions, cultural celebrations, and a deep sense of shared heritage highlighted the strong bonds between India and Grenada. After marking his successful visit to Grenada, Union Minister Prasar Margarita to mark the historic three-day visit to Antigua and Barbuda. The visit underscores the deepening of relationship between India and Latin America and the Caribbean. It is expected to foster political, economic and cultural ties and pave the way for greater collaboration with our partners in the global south. And Maldives President Mohammad Muizi on Sunday will arrive here for a state visit to India from October 6th to 10th. This will be Maldives President's first bilateral visit after assuming office. He is scheduled to hold high-level meetings with India's President Murmu, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and other senior officials of the Indian government. The discussions will focus on strengthening bilateral cooperation and further enhancing the long-standing relationship between the two nations. Earlier this year, the Maldives President had attended the swearing-in ceremony of Prime Minister Modi and the Council of Ministers at Rashtrapati Bhavan in June 9th, and has also met PM Modi on the sidelines of the COP28 summit in Dubai on December 1st last year. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. Amid the festive season of Navratri, holy prayer in form of Aarti was performed at Sri Adhya Katyayani Shakti Peeth Mandir in Chhatarpur. Sunday marks the fourth day of Shardiya Navratri. The Jhandewala Mata Temple in Delhi conducted a morning aarti on the occasion of Shardiya Navratri. On this day, devotees worship Mata Kushmunda, the supreme divinity of the solar system in Hindu philosophy. Worshippers believe that her blessings help overcome illnesses and sorrows. During the Navratri festival in Ayodhya, a Ram Leela performance was held. Miss Universe Riya Singhal played the role of Mata Sita in the event. The performance added to the festive spirit in the city. In Surat, Gujarat, large crowd gathered to perform the traditional Garba dance as Navratri celebrations began. Enthusiastic participants danced to Garba tunes, marking the vibrant start of the festival. Navratri is dedicated to the worship of Ma Durga and her 9 avatars, Nav Durga. And in an important move to improve global access to Mpox testing, the World Health Organization has listed the first Mpox in vitro diagnostic under its emergency use listing procedure. In a statement, WHO said the approval for emergency use of the Alinity MMPXV assay manufactured by Abbott Molecular Inc. will be pivotal in expanding diagnostic capacity in countries facing Mpox outbreaks. In mid-August 2024, the WHO declared the surge of Mpox cases in several parts of Africa as a public health emergency of international concern. And moving on to the sports now, in the ICC Women's T20 World Cup, India will take on arch rivals Pakistan in the crucial match in Dubai on Sunday. India will not only hope to win but also improve their net run rate, as the shocking defeat against New Zealand in the opening match has dented their chances of entering the semi-finals. The Harmanpreet Kaur-led squad now must win all its remaining group stage matches against Pakistan, Sri Lanka and Australia to have any realistic chance of making it to the last 4. In the past, India have overcome Pakistan 12 times in 15 encounters, but Pakistan are high on confidence after beating Sri Lanka comfortably in the first match. A comprehensive win against India will boost both their morale and net run rate. In the second match of the day, West Indies will face Scotland. Both the teams have lost their opening matches. It is a do-or-die game for the West Indies, as another defeat can rule out their chances of qualifying for the semi-finals. And England edged out Bangladesh by 21 runs to make a winning start at the Women's T20 World Cup in Sharjah on Saturday. The Heather Knights-led side successfully defended a below-par target of 118 runs as England's four-pronged spin attack restricted Bangladesh to 97 for the loss of 7 wickets to win the low-scoring thriller. Lindsay Smith was the standout bowler for England, taking 2 for 11 from her 4 overs, while Subhana Mostri top-scored with 44 for Bangladesh. Earlier, Danny Wyatt-Hod's knock of 41 helped England set a modest target. And India and Bangladesh will square off in the first men's T20 international of the 3-match series in Gwalior on Sunday. India would hope to continue its winning streak following their 2-0 win in the recently concluded Test series. India's stars who were part of the Test series have been rested. However, the men in blue have a star-studded lineup consisting of Captain Suryakumar Yadav, Hardik Pandya, Sanju Samson, Arshdeep Singh and others. On the other hand, Bangladesh skipper Najmul Hussain Shanto promised to play aggressive brand of cricket. Overall, India and Bangladesh have played 14 T20 international matches against each other. India won 13 of them. International cricket will return to Gwalior after 14 years and fans can expect a run feast in the first match. And Coco Gauff has set up a showdown with Carolina Muchova in the China Open final on Sunday. The American beat Spain's Paula Badosa 4-6, 6-4, 6-2, a thrilling semi-final. Gauff, who has struggled in recent months, racked up 11 double faults and also converted just 6 of 20 break points, but battled back to down the Spaniard. Last year's US Open champion is chasing a second title of the year. Her only title of the year came in Auckland in January. In another semi-final match, the 20-year-old Muchova subdued Olympic champion Zheng Quanwen in straight sets 6-3, 6-4. The Czech is the lowest-ranked player to reach the Beijing final since the tournament began in 2004. In bilateral contest, Gauff has won both their previous 2 matches in straight sets, most recently in the US Open semi-finals last year. And sparkling fireworks in various hues illuminated the night sky in the South Korean capital of Seoul during the Hanwha Seoul International Fireworks Festival at the Yeoryul Hanggang Park. This year, that marks the 20th anniversary of the event with the main theme, Light Up Your Dream. Teams from Japan, the United States and Korea participated in this year's festival with magnificent displays translating the theme onto the sky. The show is the largest firework display ever in the country. At least 1 million people gathered to watch it late on Saturday night. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.